We're live. Countdown. Hello, I am Willie Bragg. Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show, and where we like to talk about politics. Well, at least I like to, anyway. Well, we know, of course, we have a crisis right now with Russia and Ukraine, and this crisis is, with regard to Russian oil being cut off. It's not the number one reason, but it's a contributing factor to rising oil prices, which you can feel the sting at the gas pump. I sure as hell am. So anyway, one of the few times I'm going to say that maybe, just maybe, Biden might be doing something right in regard to how we can alleviate the situation with the rising gas prices, and Kevin McCarthy takes the wrongful view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you the video. I'm going to play you the video of Kevin McCarthy being a total dumbass, and I'll share you my thoughts afterwards. The stuff he says is absolutely remarkable.
McCarthy says the president's policies have emboldened Russia, and he joins us now. Great to have you on the couch here.
I know, we weren't expecting that. It was such a nice surprise.
Well, it's good to see you all. Good to see you. So let's talk about this administration, their policies, and how, in your estimation, it has emboldened Russia.
It's not just emboldened Russia. It's emboldened all the evil leaders of the world. And it started on day one. It's his executive actions. Remember, a strength of a nation is not just your military. It's your ability to have energy. It's your ability of economics. He weakened America's ability on energy. And who did that empower? It empowers Iran, Venezuela, and Russia. That's where they get their wealth. Then the way he extracted us from Afghanistan, saying that he would not leave until every American was out, and 2 weeks later he left. That sent the wrong message around the world. And then when he gave Putin the pipeline and denied America the pipeline, they saw more weakness. And then there's a little point. Remember, this is the 100th anniversary this year of the Soviet Union being created. And Putin thinks in this manner that he wants to bring the motherland back together. And remember, on November 10th, Blinken signed a strategic partnership with Ukraine. In that partnership, it advocates to having them join NATO. But when you did that, this is why they are so wrong when it comes to foreign policy. You would never sign that agreement without first selling weapons to Ukraine to defend themselves. So what they did is they had the intel that Putin wanted to invade Ukraine. They signed this document, and then Putin looks at, I've got a short window to go in before they join. And the entire time, Biden's administration says he won't do anything till after they entered. Why wouldn't you give him the stingers? Back when he was vice president, I met in the Situation Room advocating that they sell it then after I came back from Ukraine. Let them defend themselves. They want to defend themselves. They're not asking for the men and women of America to go fight for them. They're just asking for the ability to not use sticks against Russians' tanks. That's all they've ever asked for. Why wouldn't we defend freedom? Why wouldn't we allow that for them to defend themselves? And this is his policy. It's a Neville Chamberlain doctrine that has put the world upside down. That's why China's looking closer to go to Taiwan. Why wouldn't we speed up the military sales to Taiwan so they can defend themselves?
You're saying we could potentially see a repeat of this as China looks at what we're doing in Ukraine and says, well, get what we get good.
But they're looking at what we did in Afghanistan of how we left. This is all his actions, and he's made us weaker. And what's he doing in the middle of this? He's using Russia to negotiate an agreement with Iran.
That's crazy.
Why would we give billions of dollars to the state-sponsored country that funds terrorism around the world, and at the same time, he's sending people to go and negotiate with Venezuela? The worst people in the world, he's saying America wants to be a part of.
It's this green energy policy. It's so obvious what we should do. Why wouldn't we want to have more jobs in America, enrich our own?
Okay, that's enough of that chatter. The talk session goes on for the next several minutes, but you get the gist of what bullshit came out of Kevin McCarthy's mouth. Now, yes, I said Kevin McCarthy being on Fox News, he's going to be in an environment where with a friendly ear toward that kind of rhetoric. But he claims that Biden dealing with either Iran or Venezuela for cheaper oil emboldens dictatorships, and it's an act of evil. Well, he needs to realize that America currently supports 70% of the dictatorships around the world today. And I'm sure that Kevin McCarthy was not crying any tears as the U.S. sell arms to Saudi Arabia, whereby the United States is overseeing a genocide or indirectly assisting over a genocide that's taking place in Yemen by Saudi Arabia. And the fact that Saudi Arabia is a theocracy, an authoritarian theocracy. So, and that's been going on for quite a while. But I'm sure that when he was talking about emboldening dictatorships, I guess Venezuela was one. Saudi Arabia was one of the countries not on his list of countries to criticize. Well, Afghanistan, he is defending the failed strategy of staying in Afghanistan. He is arguing for the failed Bush-Cheney doctrine. And, the thing about it is, that, I'm sure that his Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, remember, he's not seeing eye to eye with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, who supported Joe Biden in the year 2020. Funny how that sort of thing kind of runs around. But, he has his own narrative. Everything that Bush and Cheney did foreign policy was good. Everything that Donald Trump did was good. Everything Democrats do, it's all bad. And yet, the policies he defends, the people who are the architects of the policies he's defending, the failed Bush-Cheney doctrine, the people around the Bush-Cheney doctrine, a lot of them supported Joe Biden. So there you have it. So now Russia, with regard to the situation with Russia, when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, there was an agreement being made with the Russian Federation that there will not be NATO states encroaching on their border. And NATO and Eastern Europe kind of broke that promise, along with the United States, broke that promise and kept on putting up another NATO state, another NATO state, another NATO state, another NATO state right there on Russia's doorstep. And that's a promise that's broken. And I'm not defending Putin, but what makes the United States think that they're so high and mighty that they'll go and do whatever the hell they want, risking another world war or something of that nature? Defense contractors. They got money to be made. There's money to be made by these defense contractors. Dwight Eisenhower, that old radical, crazy socialist, Dwight Eisenhower. He is a socialist compared to even the most liberal Democrats today. And that's our Overton window. But having that said, Dwight Eisenhower, on his way out of the White House, his last State of the Union address in January 1961, warned us about the power and influence of the military-industrial complex. It's gotten worse since 1961. Let's see here. Kevin McCarthy did the low blow comparing Joe Biden to Neville Chamberlain. Motherfucker. Joe Biden is a moron, and Joe Biden and I actually, when people say let's go Brandon, I go along with that, but I say let's go Brandon from the left. Not let's go Brandon from the retarded right-wing narratives out there. Let's go Brandon from the left, because the problem with Joe Biden is he's too much like a moderate Republican. But the thing about it is, comparing him to Neville Chamberlain, as if Vladimir Putin is Hitler. Remember, who's got Nazis in their government? It is Ukraine. It is Ukraine. Members of the, Azov Battalion, some of the government ministers are all neo-Nazis. They honor Stepan Bandera, who was a Nazi sympathizer during the time of Hitler. They have motherfucking streets named after Stepan Bandera. And Kevin McCarthy's going to sit there and say, well, Joe Biden's being just like Neville Chamberlain. There's no comparison. Comparing Ukraine to the Sudetenland, it's like not just comparing apples and oranges. It's like comparing apples and washing machines. There's no correlation. And then he talks about emboldening terrorism by dealing with Venezuela and dealing with Iran, with oil. Let's talk about Iran for a second. You want to know where the terrorism comes from against the West? It's coming from mostly Saudi Arabia. Not that much coming from Iran or Syria or places like that. Some of it is, like maybe 1% versus, in the high 90% right there around the world. The terrorism that's happening against the West for all these years, especially in the last 2 decades, you can point at Saudi Arabia. I mean, I don't like the government of Iran or the government of Syria, but they're, Syria is secular. Their government, they do a better job of defending, Christians, Jews, and competing Muslims from killing each other. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, if you're LGBTQ, you get executed. If you leave the Islamic faith, you get executed. If you, let's see, what else? If you're a feminist activist who protests for the right of women to drive a car, even though Saudi Arabia finally did reform and allow women to drive, they executed the women that were the advocates for women driving cars. But Kevin McCarthy is cool with Saudi Arabia. And, just because the thing about it is that the Democrats, their boogeyman, then Vladimir Putin, then Russia. The boogeyman for the Republicans would be Iran. So, there you have it. Ironically, the Democrats who vilify Russia and the Republicans who constantly vilifies Iran, don't those motherfuckers from both parties know that Russia and Iran are actually friends and allies of each other? So if you're going to go and not be all that aggressive on Russia, I'm talking about Republicans, kind of whether they are, and I don't want to sound like Mark Levin saying that pro-Putin wing of the Republican parties. He can fuck off too. But you got Republicans, some of them kind of are sympathetic for really bad reasons. As I said, Vladimir Putin persecutes the LGBTQ community, for example, that sort of thing. You got some who are either alt-right or leaning alt-right that looks at Russia as the last vestiges of the West, that sort of thing. So they have a kind of a perverted admiration for Vladimir Putin in that regard. And so, but a lot of these people wants to sit there and try to antagonize Iran at the same time. And what is ironic is that Iran and Russia are, they have diplomatic ties and they're pretty close with each other. They're on friendly terms with each other. So go figure. But as far as Joe Biden trying to make deals with Venezuela for cheaper oil, my thoughts, and I hope Kevin McCarthy hears what I have to say. Joe Biden is doing something correct. Based. Awesome. And I hate Joe Biden, but I'm saying that he's doing the right thing. Hey, I can say it. When somebody does something correct, I'm going to acknowledge it. When Donald Trump fired John Bolton, that was base. So I mean, when he did away with the TPP, actually, that's actually a meaningful policy thing that he was opposed to, and he was correct. Maybe he had his different reasons for being opposed to Trans-Pacific Partnership, but he was correct to kill it. And but he was wrong. Donald Trump was wrong to try to start a fight with Venezuela. Juan Guaidó, whatever his name is, as the leader of Venezuela. Sorry, no. You don't have to like. What's his name? Nicholas Madruro. I don't like Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil, but I hope that the democratic institutions in Brazil help see that he gets defeated in the next election, and we see the return of Lula da Silva back as the president of Brazil. You don't like Nicholas Maduro? It's your prerogative to support a different candidate. Even if you're an American, you may want a different candidate. I personally would not have supported Nicholas Maduro, but I certainly would not support the right-wing creeps in Venezuela either. I'm more with the Social Democratic Party called Democratic Action. Anyway, that's a different story there. But the point I'm trying to make is that when it comes to politics and everything, Joe Biden, if he's making nice with Venezuela, and we can get the gas prices lowered at the pump, not only would he be doing a favor for the American people, all those who want Venezuela to be, when they say they want Venezuela to be free, they don't really, they rather see Venezuela have their own Jair Bolsonaro. Well, let's face it, that's what the right wing would want in this country as far as Venezuela is concerned. But I believe that Venezuela would be more of a social democracy like it is in Western Europe if the United States would not be so antagonistic toward Venezuela. Now, with regard to Venezuela, let me tell you, when Kevin McCarthy said it's one of the worst governments in the world, that's not true. That's not true. Is it the most free country in the world? No, it isn't. Is it the most authoritarian country in the world? By far, no. And to prove what I'm saying, there is an opposition in Venezuela. There is an opposition. They have more fucking parties in their parliament than we do here in the United States. That alone makes them more democratic. Let's see. There's no death penalty in Venezuela. United States is behind the rest of the Western world and behind majority of Latin America too, while we're at it, when it comes to the death penalty. Because actually in the 19th century, Latin America led the world in abolishing the death penalty. And so most nations in Latin America today do not have the death penalty. Virtually all of Europe, death penalty, gone. But the United States still has the death penalty. Let's see. It's actually got one of the most free press in the world. Kind of on par with the United States. Imperfect, just like the United States, but on par with the United States. And he's talking about worst governments in the world, whatever. Are you fucking kidding me? You're going to tell me that Venezuela is worse than Saudi Arabia? Are you going to really sit there with that stupid look on your face on Fox News and say that? Another thing. We're the number one exporter of oil around the world. We still are. There's no reason for the gas prices to be this high. But the reason why we have high gas prices, and I hate to sit there and sound partisan like I'm going to defend Democrats, but I've seen this before. Starting in the late 1990s, the gas prices started to go up. Why? Because these oil companies are right-wing, lean, heavily Republican, and so they started gouging consumers. And let me tell you, they started gouging consumers at the gas pump, raising the gas prices, making damn sure that George W. Bush, their Lord and Savior then, become president. during the midterms, they would ease the price of gas just a little bit. And you have all these dope sticks around the country. Well, we're just going to go vote for the Republicans because our gas prices are going down. And then as soon as election day happens and the Republicans are reelected, what happens? Gas prices started shooting through the roof again. 2004, same thing happened. And dumbasses in 2002 increased the Republican majority for George W. Bush. Same thing happened again in 2004. Gas prices started to creep on down just a little bit. And then after Election Day, when George W. Bush was reelected, and you had all these and expanded the Republican majority even more in the House and Senate, gas prices went through the roof once again. And then they used Hurricane Katrina to make the gas prices go through the roof. And then when the Democrats took over the House and Senate in 2006, then the gas prices started to shoot real high. I have a theory that political correctness and maybe fear of possibly a race war is the reason why the oil companies did not gouge at the gas pump during the Obama years. I know that's a little out there, but having a white man in the White House, I think that's their cover. They go like, "Well, we won't be called racist. We go and race gas prices." That's what I think. I could be wrong, but I sort of think that's kind of what happened there. But anyway, the point is that the oil companies are out of control. They do whatever the fuck they want. And honestly, we should actually forbid them from exporting oil out of this country and keep that oil here for our consumers. Want to make America first? Go ahead and tie the hands of the oil companies here in the United States. That's how you can make America first. And I'm talking about America first in a progressive way, not the reactionary, nationalistic sort of way. Here's an idea. Why don't we just take the right of profit away from the oil companies here in the United States and nationalize the industry? Why not do that? I think that's what we need to do. I mean, at the very least, we need to ban oil exports. That would be a very good step to take, and I could live with that. I would like to go further and nationalize the oil companies, but that's my distant second thing that I would like to do to the economy. First is a national healthcare system. That's more important than what to do to the oil companies. But having that said, so there you have it. There you have it right there. So right now, I mean, Joe Biden dealing with Venezuela is a smart move. I have made that suggestion, not necessarily related to this issue, but I had made that suggestion before. Instead of sitting there harassing and bullying Venezuela around, wouldn't it be better to deal with Venezuela and actually help their economy by buying their oil? Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a hell of a lot better approach than starving the country to death and for that country to have empty shelves. Or they'll be like, "Oh, that's socialism cost those empty shelves." Capitalist United States during COVID, we had a lot of empty shelves too. So, but anyway, that's the way I see it. And if Joe Biden is trying to go and negotiate with Venezuela to sit there and to actually help us at the gas pumps, I hope he would do that. If Donald Trump would have been reelected and he would have been doing the same thing, in fact, if he would have been doing the same thing, I would be congratulating him for doing that too. I'm not a partisan hack. I mean, if as I said, the United States deal with dictatorships all the time. Here is an opportunity. It's not even that Venezuela is a dictatorship, but here's an opportunity. Anything that's problematic within Venezuela, anything that's problematic in a negative way in Venezuela can be alleviated with the United States and Venezuela working in partnership in a way where both sides can benefit from this. So Anyway, chat line here. Artie Rivas, he said, my man, hey, how are you doing? And then we also have Dirtbag Leftist, ban oil exports. And that's, as I said, that it would be a very, very drastic good first positive step we could make in that regard. So anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say right now. And I will, what I was wanted to say is, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree with what I have to say, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. Feel free to subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. And let me just say, I'm going to emphasize, please do subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. And the reason I'm saying that is that YouTube is imposing censorship, is messing with the algorithms of independent content makers. This is not just about me. It's about me and other people on the left who are being silenced by big tech. They're silencing us. I mean, Ben Shapiro and all these folks complaining about being silenced. Believe me, they would rather see a Kyle Kalinske out of the way than Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro makes money for YouTube. Ben Shapiro makes money for social media because of the narratives and everything. Believe me, Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro are much safer than you know, Kyle Kalinske or Crystal Ball or anybody else on the online left. Because let me tell you, they go after some small ones right now to make an example out of, and they shadow ban. That's what it is. When the algorithms, the way they work, that's my appeal to you, to go and subscribe to this channel, because we want to defeat them. And my understanding is pressing like also helps with our algorithms. So let me also suggest to hit that like button as well. Anyway, remember, we have a class struggle to wage, because if you're going to support a war, I say support the class war. And also remember that we're all Julian Assange. Take care.